I always shoot with natural light. I do have a cheap artificial light, but I only ever use that if I need a shot in my dining room where my fire is, because the light's not very good in there. But I've made a little some slides, so I'll put my glasses on because I can't see very well. So I'm just going to talk about understanding light, because it kind of, I think that's the most important thing in a photograph is the light. The styling and composition is the second most important thing, really. And I think the easiest way for that to stick in your mind is to really realize that a photograph really is essentially just capturing light. So sorry, I can't really see my screen. So when you understand basically that your camera is just a tool that is capturing all different light, then when you look at the picture, it helps you understand how to do it. So my biggest tip would be to carry like an object around the room and see how the light comes in and hits it from the side or from behind, and then you can see where the shadow falls and which light works best, and then you can kind of use your camera then to capture that light. I don't know if that makes sense. So on the slide, it's basically the word photograph actually means drawing with light. So that's something I like to remember. But it sounds like a really basic thing to think about, but that's really what you're doing. You're drawing with light with your camera. So I always say as well that your camera is only a tool, and think of it like a paintbrush, and you're like the artist. So you're drawing with light. So that's, I think that's why I love photographing with natural light more, because it isn't really the object I'm taking a picture of, it's the light. Sorry, that's it, sorry. So it doesn't really matter. You could have something that looks amazing to the naked eye, and you could have styled it absolutely beautifully. It could be like a delicious cake that looks really amazing, but if you are photographing it in the wrong sort of light, it's not going to look like its best. So say maybe you've got light from above, it makes it look flat, or maybe there's something really shiny and you're not highlighting that by using maybe like a bit of backlight. So the light really is the most important thing. So as I said earlier, the easiest way really for you to see light is to carry an object around and see how the light hits it in different angles, and that will help you really learn how you can capture it with your camera. And another great tip I always say is to look at paintings as well and see how they've painted the objects and where they've put the shadows. And I'm very inspired by Rembrandt and Vermeer, just because I love the mood that they capture. So that, I think that's why my style is quite dark and moody. But this obviously is important for any style. So the direction of light and the strength and the colour. So I find for food photography, well, unless you're doing something really arty, the best light really is side light, where the light is coming in from the side. So you've got your scene set up here and maybe you've got the window right next to it here, or backlight. And side light works well really for everything, and then backlight works well for certain, depending on the size of it. Maybe you've got like a tart that's got like a nice glaze, backlight would really highlight that glaze and it would make it look really beautiful. Or drinks work really well with backlight. But you can kind of do a mixture of the two if you stand at an angle and you've got kind of light coming from the side and a slight backlight as well. And the strength of light, so obviously during the day the light strength changes, and you have like harsh light or soft light. So the hard light, you get very strong intense shadows and highlights, which can make quite a dramatic image. These look great in summer. Maybe if you can do these outside as well, and if you've got like branches and stuff, and it makes like a really beautiful shadows. Or soft diffuse light, which in England we have most of the time from the clouds, and that's the sort of light I shoot in all the time. but that can really be affected by the time of day, the weather, the window that you're shooting at, the direction, like north facing, south facing, and that can change throughout the day. So the picture of the window, that was with hard light, but I've diffused it with a net curtain, so you can't really see any detail on me. I'm just a shadow. And then the one on the other side is with soft light, and at the end I've got some behind the scenes pictures to show how that was taken. So the color of the light changes as well. So you've heard of golden hour, so that can be really lovely to kind of photograph in, to get a very warm color, but it can affect like the clouds, and that can change the color and the strength of the light. So these images, there's an outdoor one of the cake that was taken at sort of golden hour, and then the other two were very early in the morning, and the light was quite golden then, and that's very hard light. And then to achieve that same sort of warmth in winter, candles can make a nice sort of color as well. I love to use candles this time of year because it tells that story of like being in the warmth by the fire and stuff. That was just a closer up of the hard light as an example. And then the next image is soft light in the same room. So this is the same room in soft light. It's at a different time of the day, so it's like a different mood. So the shadows are less intense. And these and the next one, sorry. So these are just more examples of soft side light and then a dramatic sort of backlight, but they all have the same sort of style. And then these ones, to get the light just in one area of the shot, I've put boards either side of my window, so I can have it kind of like a vignette sort of look. And the light hardens as it travels away from its origin. So I always put my table very close to my window, because I like this sort of I like to have dramatic shadows and highlights. So that's my style. So I want that sort of hard sort of shadow with the defined sort of edge. So to get that sort of style, make sure your light source is very close to the subject. So move the table as close to the window as you can, and then it gives you a really nice sort of contrast. And I always use my camera in manual mode, and then you can kind of just move it up and down just to kind of make sure it's in the right place. So ways to control the light, because basically your job to paint with light, your camera's just a tool, but it's kind of your job to bend that light or diffuse it or make it work for the style you want. So you don't need to spend out loads of money on anything expensive. I've just got a piece of card from the art shop, and it's black on one side and white on the other. So if I want really deep shadows, then I will use a black sort of card, or if the light is not very good, I will use a white card to kind of bounce the light back in. Diffusers in the summer, I've got like a very thin net curtain, so if the light's too hard, I will diffuse it slightly, or I will use some of my backdrop boards, and I will just place them either side of the window to kind of bring in the light, so I've got a smaller sliver of light. And obviously, because the sun's forever changing throughout the day, during your shoot you might find that you have to keep changing the settings of your camera and move boards around or open the curtain up a little bit. So I always have my camera on a tripod, and this way I can shoot at a very slow shutter speed at times when there's not a lot of light, especially this time of year. The other day I took a picture and it was on like -3 or something. Like I would never have been able to have done it holding it by hand. So it's just, I just get into the habit of always having my tripod on a camera. So the way that the light is delivered to you can affect it as well. So obviously this could be the direction of the sun. So obviously the sun moves throughout the day. So at certain times of day you might have different light. And even like where your window is, because I have a very small window that's got like grids on, and even just the light coming through that sort of disrupted glass diffuses it. And then I have a wall right outside my window that's white, so when the sun isn't quite over, it still bounces off into that room. and I have a very low window as well, so everything kind of affects, like where you live, you might have a bright red brick wall outside, which kind of absorbs the light. So it all really depends on where your window is, the face, like which way it's facing. But I find out of all the windows in my house, the west facing one is the easiest to shoot in throughout the day. And if you have like a really large window that has a lot of light and you want to do the moodier style, then you can just use, like we said earlier, curtains or boards. You can tape up some fabric and kind of make a smaller light source to work with. And on this shot, I wanted like a stream of light coming in, so I diffused half the window at the bottom and with like a net curtain, and kept the top 2 parts of the window open, and then it kind of only added a sliver of light coming in, so it gave like quite a nice effect. And this is the behind the scenes of the earlier shot. So the light was coming in, so it was side light, and I tend to, a lot of the time, put objects that are not in the scene outside the scene to act as like little shadow makers. So I like this bag of flour, you wouldn't see it in the shot, but it would kind of add a bit of shadow onto me. And then the next picture, I've added a board here because I didn't want me to be in full light, I wanted just the table. So I always add kind of boards next to me here on the table. And then that's the final image. So it's just, but obviously you can't really see the bag of flour or anything, but that adds a shadow there. So you get like this natural sort of vignette just by adding like whatever's next to you. I always just like have random things placed outside the scene just to kind of make more shadows to make a natural vignette. I can't hear you. Are you on mute?
Sorry. Okay, that's the last slide, right?
Sorry. I hope I went through that and made sense.
Okay.
I was like trying to
do it. I really like all the photos, and wow. Okay, I don't believe it until you say that all of them was taken by natural lighting. Wow. Okay. Wow, this is so amazing, and wow, thank you for sharing with us, Aimee. So maybe I have some question here about the natural lighting. What do you think? Like the size of the window that you will choose if you have a choice?
Yeah, I think if you have a choice, the smaller the window, the easier it is to kind of control, because the smaller the window, the more intense the light sort of is.
Ah, I see. Okay, that's why when I want to try to do the natural lighting food photography, I kind of find difficulties when the window is too large, because the lighting is very soft.
Yeah, it's when you've got like a bigger source, it is kind of softer, whereas the smaller you make it, it's kind of more intense, I think. That's what I find. And also, if you're in a room, like choose a room that's just got one window. The more windows you have, like the more it affects it. If there's just one window, then you've got just one sort of light. It makes it easier to control.
I see. Okay, I've heard some people share about the natural lighting food photography, but this is the first time I hear about like choosing the room that is only have one window. I couldn't agree more than that, because it is way easier to control and see the light clearly. Okay, that's because this is my window. This is very hard, very large, and it is very hard to use.
If I had that, I would probably cover the whole of it up and just have one panel open.
Ah, I see. What do you think the size of you will set? Maybe about like 60
Yeah,
centimeter or 1 meter?
yeah, like my window's not that big, so yeah, like a meter, and then even then you can kind of bring it in and add stuff to kind of block more off by putting props and things in the way on the table.
Wow, I see. Okay, let's go to your Instagram account. I really like all of this picture. Wow,
Thank
this is
you.
so this is so amazing. Okay, maybe I want to ask, how many times you usually spend for taking like for one picture?
Um, it really depends. Like I used to be very quick, and then I went through a stage of being a bit OCD, and like I'd take a picture and I'd look at it on my screen, and then I'd move something, make it again. But now I've got a puppy. It's so difficult to take pictures that I am kind of quick again, and I'll just be like and get it done as quick as possible.
Ah, I see. Okay,
Sometimes it
okay.
could, sometimes it can take like a few, like an hour, and I'll take like 50 pictures, and then I'll only be happy with one. Because the crop, I find the crop of for Instagram, I don't know. I feel like with composition, I have to kind of get it right. So I do tend to go back a few times just to make sure everything's in the right place.
Ah, I see. How you usually like measure the cropping? Like if you
Um,
want to
I'm so
have certain composition, how you measure the position
I think
usually?
because I'm so used to kind of knowing where the crop is. Like when I put my finger on like my camera, I can kind of like guess where it's going to be, and it's usually like you put your finger over the bottom of the screen, and that's probably where it is.
Ah, I see.
I've got
Okay.
grab it. Oh, yeah. So when I am taking a picture, I'll just like put my hand like that, and I'll guess like where the I moved them. The dog's gone underneath me. Yeah, so you can I kind of just put my finger there, and I'm like, yeah, it's about there. But I don't know, I'm quite funny with objects because I always want the composition to be right as well. So when I go to Roz's house, she laughs at me because I do tend to go back and reshoot stuff after 5 minutes. Like, no, I'm not happy with that.
Okay, so we have question from Champy. Can you share us about how to plan before shoot?
Yeah. So my favoriteest thing to do is to get a notebook and draw little like squares. So imagine you're shooting a recipe for a blog post or a magazine, and you need to get like the step. I'll kind of plan it out. So I think like I want maybe a down shot, and I'll kind of plan like a little mood board of what I want out, and then I'll think about the color of the thing I've baked, what plates and things, and I'll get it all sort of laid out in my head first, and then I'll set up my tripod. I'll kind of put most of the stuff in the scene, and I'll like look at it through the camera, and then if I'm happy with that, then I'll kind of bring the rest of the stuff in. But even like what I'm wearing, sometimes I'll have to change because I think no, that doesn't really go. I think after a while you kind of subconsciously do it on autopilot, but there is a lot of thought that goes into it without realizing.
Okay, so yeah, maybe I want to ask about your favorite apps for editing. How you edit most of your pictures?
I used to always edit with Lightroom, and now I open the image in Lightroom and do like the basic like straightening and stuff, and then I open it in Photoshop, and I started to use that a bit more just because I think you've got more control of like the eraser tool or things like that. I just prefer it. Like
Okay.
for most things.
I see. If you can choose, like, there's so many menus in Lightroom. If you can choose, like, your top three favorite
Um, so
area that you want to
the
twist.
brushes I love, and I always use the clarity brush because I prefer to add clarity just where I want it rather than just adding it to the whole image. So I always use the clarity brush, especially if I've got a wooden table or something, because it really brings out the detail. I love the vignette tool. I always add that. The color balance, I always just put it up just a smidge to warm. And then I do the camera calibration thing for the lens because sometimes it can be a bit bent. And then I do the highlights and shadows, and then the rest, I'll open it in Photoshop and do the rest. And in Photoshop, I'm still learning each day, but I always love to do like add the layers and kind of darken it, like rub it out and kind of just add like bits back again. I only really use it just to kind of with the brushes really, as I would in Lightroom, but just more, it seems easier. I don't know.
I see.
And
Yeah.
like the eraser, like I've got a tattoo, I always have to erase it, and you can't really do that in Lightroom to a very high standard. So I always
Yeah. Okay, so in Lightroom you do the clarity brush. Yeah, usually you add clarity in the wooden background so you get more texture in it.
yeah.
You how about the area in the foot like this?
Yeah, so
Do you usually brush this area too?
sometimes I might, but the clarity can make it a bit crazy. So I probably did go over it lightly over the whole thing on that one.
I see.
But I
Yeah.
would have used it more around the edges and just lightly maybe.
Around the edges here.
I probably would have just used the brush sort of around. Yeah.
I see.
Like Harris brush is great for some foods, but not all foods, because it can make them look fake. So like it's great for things like meringue, things with texture. It's great for because it really the highlights and shadows and makes it look more sort of. It makes them pop a bit more.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, there's someone asked about, do you also teach food photography? Like, do you open any online class?
I haven't got an online one at the moment. I've only got an in-person one. But lots of people ask me for online. It's just trying to get it organized.
We are waiting for it. So, so launch a date and feel free to share. Sometime you want to open the online class. We will happily repost the program. So, wow, this program maybe this program will help many people because many people who want to start food photography like always think about how like spending very expensive camera, expensive lenses, expensive like lighting.
I've only got this one lens and it's cheap, like £100.
Wow, wow. That yeah, that's why I always admire a photographer that
It's
use
not
the
easy.
skill instead of the tools.
Yeah, like the camera I did spend money on, but I only bought it 2 years ago. Before that, I used a cheap one. And it isn't really about the camera, it's about the person holding it and the way they see light. So you could take pictures that are amazing with your phone. It's just about how you see the light and how you capture it. Don't go back to the money.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, anyone who still feels that expensive to take beautiful photography only. Anyone that feel that they cannot use cheap camera to take beautiful photography, try to hand the camera to Aimee. Give your phone to Aimee, and Aimee will take beautiful picture, believe me. Because the skills matter. How to
Yeah.
use the lighting, just like Aimee shared just now. Wow. Okay. So I've seen that you use the soft light and the harsh light.
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite?
Um, I think it depends what I'm taking a picture of. I do love hard light just because I think it's so dramatic, and but I mean you can't really use it for everything. You can only really, like with food it works with some things but not everything. It's great for like lifestyle type images where it doesn't really matter whether people can see the details, and it's kind of just like a fun image. But in Britain, the light's kind of always diffused, so I don't even need to diffuse it most of the time. Like I never diffuse the light because it's always cloudy.
I see.
But if
Uh,
you're somewhere where very bright sun, it can be very tricky. Like I've when I've traveled to India, I've found the light very different, and it's very warm, so the color balance is completely different. So it's just kind of, I think you've just got to play each day, walk around the house, shoot at each window. Like you might end up finding that you have to do it in your bedroom, like, or like I used to have to shoot by my back door because it was like the easiest place. Like you can build a scene sort of anywhere around the house and just find the light that kind of works the best, and you can change the colors in like Lightroom and Photoshop if you find the color balance is off there. But
mhm.
as long as the light and the shadows kind of look okay, the rest you can kind of fix
Uh,
afterwards.
I see. Okay. So we have a question from Champy. Okay. How to make a lot of people saw your work on IG?
um I don't know. I think it, it's taken a lot of time, and sometimes it's not even the photos sometimes that do well, it's the crazy things that I make. Like the things I make, it seems to, like, then you'll see it on explore page and stuff. I think I get noticed more for the crazy pies and stuff than the actual picture.
Mm, okay. Well, I really like all the pie that you make. It is it is so beautiful. Okay. Wow. Anyway, how do you plan which kind of like food or cake you want to make usually,
Um,
especially if you want to post in your IG?
Most of the things I make is like for dinner or pudding, and then I kind of just jazz it a bit. So like just because I'm like, especially during the pandemic, I was kind of bored, so I thought I'm gonna make dinner interesting. But I guess sometimes you do kind of play on things for Instagram, but most of the artistic stuff was just because I was bored and I needed some kind of creative outlet to kind of keep me busy. So pastry and stuff seemed to be the way forward.
Okay. Like shots. If how you create shots like this? Do you have someone to take it for you, or yeah, how you plan this kind of shots?
Because I've got a Canon camera, I have the app where you can have the use your phone as like the button. So
Mm.
phone next to me on the table, and it was on like a timer, and I can see, you can see where you are on the screen, and then you can kind of pick where you want the focus and then press it. So this was at my friend Roz's house. So she's got really beautiful windows.
Wow, I really like this one. This is so beautiful. Wow. Okay, so yeah, do you also like how do you who is your client mostly?
I don't know. It's weird. The last 2 years, everything seems to have changed, and it's kind of like if you asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said, "Oh, brands like supermarkets and all that." But it seems to have really changed, and it's kind of a bit of everyone now. Like brands wanting just images for them to use, like all sorts of brands. So I don't know. At the moment, I feel like I'm going through a very phase where I'm getting work from sorts of brands I wouldn't usually think I'd work with. But they don't. It's not stuff I share on Instagram. It's very different than the stuff I share. So it's weird that I'm getting those types of jobs. But
Okay.
I don't know. It used to be a lot of influencers type stuff, but I don't tend to get that much now either.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a question here from Sulam by Didi. Um, do you have any trick using ring light?
No, I've never used a ring light.
Okay. So, yeah, if you learn from today, actually, your window, if you can use your window lighting, you will make expensive food photography. You will make beautiful pictures. You don't even need ring light at all.
No.
Wow.
The only artificial light I've got is this really cheap, like umbrella-y type one, and I've only used it about 4 times, and that's only in the pictures with the fire that I've shared. But,
Okay. So, about the direction of the lighting, you have said that there's side light or backlight.
yeah,
Which
the
one do you use the most?
side light.
Hmm.
Always tend,
Can you explain why?
just because it looks. I like the way it looks with the shadows, the way they fall off to the side. And I think when you look at paintings as well, most of those are painted with the side light. It's kind of, I think, how the eye tends to look at things, like with the shadow.
Hmm.
And it's the most, it just makes things look better. I'd never do light from above unless there was one room in India. I was in this restaurant and it was like pitch black, but then there was like ceiling light, and that was quite dramatic because you just had this beam of light. But if you're at home and you've got like ceiling things, I wouldn't recommend photographing underneath them because it can make it very flat, and you need to have shadows to give shape to things.
Yeah. Because when the lighting from the top, that we get so minimum of shadow, right?
Yeah.
Ah, I see. Yes. Okay. Wow. Wow. I really like. Wow. Okay. I keep looking all the photos because I really love all of them. Okay. How about like the the props? Okay, many people say that like it is really hard to put the perfect props, like put the perfect like perfect position of the yeah. It maybe people sometimes don't know which props is good, which kind of props that will make a beautiful picture. How about in your opinion? How you choose your props, which is good and which is like you won't use that at all.
I think it depends on your style and the story that you're trying to tell in the picture and the mood. But personally myself prefer to use props that are quite plain, were not very patterned, or like old and vintage type things. So then they're kind of like, they're telling a story, but they're not like the main thing. It's kind of like they get lost in the scene, and then it's not that you're focusing on, unless it's like Roz's Crazy Pie Tin, which is like a star in itself. But so I tend to use quite neutral colors, like wood or stone or sort of old ceramics, and then and when you're styling, I tend to think of shapes, so like circles. If I'm using something that's circular, then probably lots of other circles, or if I'm shooting something that's like square or rectangle, then I will kind of add other things that are the same shape. And then like even and odd numbers, like I'll crop parts of things off, so if it's going to be more like odd numbers work better than sort of even, I find.
Okay, odd number. Yep. And then maybe I have last question about, okay, what is the most challenging situation that you have ever experienced during your photo shoot?
It's usually, for me, obviously, because I shoot with natural light, it's always like the light. So some days I'll have like a shoot planned, and I'll have everything made ready, and then I'll wake up and it's like pitch black, pouring with rain, and you're like, oh. So that is the biggest sort of setback with natural light. Whereas if I had artificial light, it wouldn't really matter. But yeah, like especially this time of the year, like, and it gets dark so early, you really have such a short window to kind of get in what you need to get done. And if it's raining and black all day, then you really are limited to what you can do. Like, you can have it on the tripod, but you couldn't do like sifting shots and stuff if it's really dark outside, because you need to have a, you know, certain shutter speed to capture movement.
I see. So if you face that kind of situation, what you usually do?
I'll either change the plan and not shoot something that is with movement, or I will take sort of two images. So I'll do one of me like standing still, like holding the sifter, and then like one of me like sifting, and then I'll kind of gel the two together in Photoshop. You have to kind of use your Photoshop skills for
Okay, so I have one last question. Okay, about this is really dragged my attention because I really like all the pies that you created. Where does the inspiration come from? I really like all of them.
I always think I find inspiration in nature, so most of the things I create are kind of inspired by like walks out and about. So that I picked the wild garlic and that, and I thought it'd look nice. And even like paintings and patterns on fabrics and stuff, sometimes I'm inspired by things like that.
Ah, I see. Okay, and wow, this is so amazing.
Yeah, sometimes I come up with a bit random ideas.
I really like this one. Wow, so amazing. Wow, I really like the color of it.
I look like Belle from Beauty and the Beast in that one, I think.
Okay, so wow, thank you so much, Aimee, from Twitch Studio, sharing with us and inspiring us today. Okay, so yeah, feel free to share if you decided to open your online class. Maybe you accept students anywhere around the world, we are we are more than happy to join if you open some program. So feel free to invite us, and wow, we will be very happy to join.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions that I didn't cover, just send me a message and I'll try and get to it.
I see.
I know people can be quite frightened of natural light sometimes, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, okay. So, wow, thank you so much, Aimee, for spending your day with us. Well, we are so blessed having you for today. So, wow, you are really inspiring. Thank you so much. Maybe we can collaborate again in the future.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, see you. Bye.